Hey guys, it's Steve from Mum Just Phoebe, and today we're going to be talking about my autism. Now this is a subject I've been meaning to raise on my channel for a long time. I don't think many people have asked me, but here it goes. So I've just done this on TikTok in like 10 or 12 parts, I don't even know, but a lot of people want to know about it and I'm trying to raise awareness here, and I've always wanted to do a video like this. So, when I was 9 years old, I got diagnosed with a learning disability, but I also have mobility issues as well, so I've had all sorts of tests growing up as a kid because I have weak muscles. I have like mobility disorder issues as well as autism, so you can imagine what my life is like with autism on top of everything else. But the autism, I cope with it. My mum knew that I had it, and so did my dad. Before I even got tested, they kind of knew. But like with me, it was kind of a shock because I didn't even think that there was anything possibly wrong with me until I found out. But it turns out autism isn't something to down my days now. I cope and live with it because I have to. I've got no choice. But that's basically the background. I went through so many physio sessions and tests when I had my autism. I literally had so many tests. So when you're in the testing centre, it was a test centre I was in. They literally test you through all these different puzzles, and then they tell you what's kind of wrong with you and kind of what communication disorders you've got. So that's what I had to go through when I was getting tested. I had to go through all these different puzzles and tests and stuff. They're fun, but they're really annoying. And then after that, I was known as autistic, although the actual name for it is ASD, Autistic Spectrum Disorder. That's basically what it means, ASD. That's what I was classed under as now. And it does make life difficult now that I've got autism. It does make life a tad bit more difficult with ASD. But even though I had it, on every single school information piece, like every single school I went to, that was always written on my form, ASD. The first primary school I went to, they didn't even know I had it, so it wasn't written on my form. But the next primary school I went to, it was written on my form. It was written Phoebe, and then my last name, ASD. That was literally all it was, with autism spectrum disorder written under the ASD bit. That meant I had to have teaching. That basically meant I had to have teaching supports in all of my lessons. Through all the schools I went to in my childhood, I literally had to have teaching assistants, a teaching support in every single class, because at first people didn't quite know how to deal with it, so they had to have teaching assistants in most of my classes anyway. So that was interesting. And then freedom finally came. After years of not being able to know what it was, finally I was waitlisted to join this club I go to now, which is called my Saturday Club, ASD Saturday Club. Basically, they're a big club that have loads of autistic people, any age. Well, they have a younger group and they have an older group. I go to the older group now. I used to go to the younger group. And they basically have loads of people there who are autistic, and you get to meet people, which is amazing. That's when my freedom started coming. That's when I could finally feel like I wasn't alone, because at first I felt isolated, I didn't know who I was. So when that club finally came along and I was able to go to it, I didn't feel alone anymore. Like, you can imagine what it was like for me when I felt like alone. But then when I finally saw all these other people who did have autism like me, I finally felt like I wasn't alone. So yeah, and then I got moved to the older one because I got older, and then I still go to that one now. So yeah, and now here's the actual science behind it. People with autism have slightly like a, best way to explain it is a loose wire in their brain. They've got a few more extra bits in the brain, but they've got a loose wire. So yeah, but it's also a genetic disorder, so I can't pass it on at all. I can't pass it on because it's a genetic disorder. Obviously, one of my parents had the autistic gene in them, so they passed it on to me, which is unfortunate. But yeah, so they passed it on to me, which is why I have that, which is why I have the gene. But it does make my everyday life difficult because I have things like sensory issues. So anything like fireworks that go off, I get scared because the noise for you guys is probably just normal, but for me it's like 10 times as loud. And I also find so these things I'm about to say now are the things I find most difficult with having autism. I find loud noises very difficult to come with, because for you guys a loud noise is probably just a loud noise, but for me a loud noise is like 10 times as loud as it is for you. Also I find the world around me very difficult to conquer because I have things that I'm worried about and I'm always constantly worrying about myself. That's one of the main issues. I also have anxiety as well with it. You get anxiety with autism. It's actually diagnosed as anxiety as well. But I find that incredibly people, and my parents and stuff always worry about me. They always worry about me because they do. They have to, because one of their main worries is my autism. So they always constantly worry about me. And so do my friends. I also find making friends incredibly difficult as well. But when I do make friends, I try to hold on to the ones that I've got, because I know if I lose one, I'm probably not going to make the same. I'm probably not going to make that friend again, or I'm not going to make another friend. So I try to hold on to the friends I've got, like my best friend and stuff. I try to hold on to the people I have, like to the friends I have and stuff. So yeah. So it is complicated living with autism, and it is genetic. It basically just means I've got a few extra chromosomes in me. But like I said, and also with me as well, my parents are always constantly worrying, and so are my friends and my grandparents. Everyone worries over me because of how much autism I have. Like with my autism, they're always constantly worrying about me. They don't need to, but they do, because of that. But my tips have been to know it's a superpower and to stop people worrying about me. If I can be independent, then people don't need to worry about me as much, because I can be independent, because I can try to be independent and try to learn to drive and try to get my own place. And people need to not worry about me as I get older anymore, because I'm pretty sure now I can get more independent and live my autism. And I can't, just to clarify, there's no cure to autism, because no cure has existed ever, and it's a genetic disorder. I can't pass it on to anyone. I'm not a disease. I'm just someone who's got that, I'm like a normal person with a bit extra on the side. Just think of it like that. I'm a normal person with a bit extra on the side. But yeah, I thought I'd post this in time for Autism Awareness Day, which is actually coming up in a few weeks' time. But yeah, so it just basically means with autism I find things a little bit more difficult than other people would find than other things. But I thought I'd let you guys aware of that. But yeah, I don't think I've mentioned it much. I have got it in my bio on TikTok, but then all the questions I get asked is how do you live with it, how do you cope, that kind of thing, so I thought I'd answer all your questions at once. So yeah, but basically the science behind it is just I've got a bit extra in my brain, I've got a few more extra chromosomes in my brain and also in my body as well. It's like a loose wire. The best way I describe it to people is it's like imagine I've got a loose wire in my brain. That's kind of what it's like. But there are people in place to help me, like my kickboxing. I go there and I feel instantly better. I can be who I want to be. In school, a lot of the time, because I didn't have many friends at first, I did have to hide who I really was. I did have to just pretend for a while someone I wasn't. But eventually when I got into like higher schools, they understood autism and I could be who I wanted to be. So I did have to hide myself for a while, but now I don't have to anymore. I didn't have to when I moved when I went up into middle school and high school. I didn't have to hide who I was because they seemed to have a better understanding about it. And it also meant in mock exams as well, I had to be in a special group of. I had to have a reader and writer. I had to be put in a special group, which is actually annoying. I couldn't. Basically, when my mocks came along, I wasn't allowed to do them with anyone else. I had to be put in the group where I had to be tested for a reader and writer, which basically meant I was sat with a bunch of other people like myself, well, similar, but maybe had like different things. But they needed like a reader and writer as well, so I had like a reader and the same person, but they were my reader and also writer as well. So I had them sitting next to me in an exam, which actually makes it really hard. Actually makes the exam harder when someone's looking over you. But they were the people that I was in exams with. You know, those were the adults I had to be in exams with, because it makes it a lot harder. Because I find I'm a good reader, okay? I'm a good reader. But in exams, I can misread questions. That's why I needed a reader in. That's why I needed a reader in my exams. But I did pass my mock exams, luckily. So it kind of helped. And I may have quit school when I was 15. Nothing to do with me. But yeah, so that's basically my life into autism. And if you want a detailed story, head over to my TikTok. Head over to my TikTok because there's a more detailed version of there's actually the same amount of information, but there's more detailed versions about it on here. But like I say, guys, I've kind of learnt to cope with my autism and basically just live with it for the rest of my life. I'm always going to have it until the day I die. But until then, I basically just have to live and cope with it, really, to be honest. And that's the way I do it. And that's the way I cope with it. I hope you enjoyed a detailed thing into my autism. I'll see you guys very soon for another video.